Back home and to a power struggle like no other. A proposal to connect northwest Queensland to the national electricity grid via a $1 billion transmission line at Townsville is looking unlikely. The project was to pave the way for a world-class clean energy corridor. It was also tipped to feed the increasingly power-hungry needs of the Northwest Minerals province for years to come. But as Penny Timms reports, the line's biggest proposed user pulled its support and the project's future is in disarray.
For a short time, it seemed like Outback Queensland was to get the power it desperately needs. Proprietors of a $1 billion transmission line had all but sealed a project to connect the resource-rich Northwest Minerals province to the national electricity grid. The line was to run from Townsville to Mount Isa. The aim to feed green energy back into the grid, catering for a so-called clean energy sector. Without power, the giant mining and resources industry cannot flourish. More power would pave the way for new mines to come online, boosting mining and government coffers. But mining giant Xstrata literally pulled the plug. It's chosen to get its power in other ways. That decision's cast doubt over the project's viability, and locals believe they are back where they started.
They have launched upon a decision which is good for their company, which is absolutely disastrous for the rest of us.
The big Carpentaria mineral province needs a lot of energy, and those guys that can't get cheaper energy, they're burning a lot of diesel.
I can understand why they've done it. They've done it as commercially, and they've thought locally, which they are local. We're Cloncurry, Mount Isa region. I think they should be thinking, more regionally. That's my own point of view, but I can understand why they've done it.
But understanding why doesn't make it easier to accept, because power is the lifeblood of economic growth.
We, of course, don't like what they've done because it's put a spanner in the works, but I understand where they're coming from, but I think they need to think more regionally. I don't think regionally they would be very... all these shires wouldn't be too happy with what's happened, no.
The transmission line was known as Copper String. While it was a pure commercial venture, it had the support of politicians from all persuasions. Mayors from Townsville to Mount Isa saw it as an opportunity to create a clean energy corridor, unlike anything in existence.
There's probably a great cross-section of them, but solar and wind, the wind farms stand out pretty well because wind farms out here don't worry anyone. In smaller settled areas you get a lot of complaints and that, but out here you got wide open spaces and the wind farm could be sitting in the middle of a 10,000 acre paddock and it's not going to be a problem to anyone.
There were also hopes of other benefits. Could a clean energy plant turn the noxious weed prickly acacia into a biofuel?
And that's a really big one. This is the heart of prickly acacia here in the Huon, Richmond, Julia Creek area, and it's the thickest prickly acacia in Queensland, probably in Australia.
Xstrata was invited to be part of this story, but a representative said there was no one available for interview. In a written statement, the company says its decision was a commercial one, which will secure Mount Isa's power needs for more than a decade. Federal member for Kennedy, Bob Catter, says Xstrata's decision is short-sighted.
Inland North Queensland is now left on an island bereft of water. In this case, bereft of electricity. Now, there's one little group over here who are very powerful. They got all the water and they're laughing all the way to the bank. The rest of us, we got nothing.
He says regional development will suffer if North Queensland can't access more power.
If you want to open up a mine in this area, you will have to go to diesel. Now, I'm not worried about carbon, but there's a lot of people that are. That is absolutely disastrous for a carbon outcome.
Rural towns were also counting on an influx of workers, and that's dried up too.
The development of it was going to start here in Richmond, and they're going to work east and west, and there was going to be 200 to 300 man camp here. So, for 18 months, that's a pretty good little hit for our community, and we were looking forward to it.
Work has already begun to create a new housing and industrial estate at Julia Creek to cater for the expected growth. Copper String was to help financially.
When they set up, for instance, they were setting up here in our new development down there, and they were prepared to put dollars into that, so to help while they were here. So it's a big impact.
Supporters of copper string say even without Xstrata, the project should still go ahead, but without private investment, the state and federal governments would have to cover the costs.
It's time for the federal government to stand up on its what it says about carbon tax. It's gone through Parliament, so it's time now to stand up and be counted on clean, green energy. If they want that, this is a great development for Australia, and especially Northern Australia, which seems to miss out a lot, so it's time now to back it up.
Only time will tell.